Daily Words of God.
The management plan of God spans 6,000 years and is divided into 3 ages based on the differences in His work. The first age is the age of law of the Old Testament. The second is the age of grace. And the third is that which belongs to the last days, the age of kingdom. In each age, a different identity is represented. This is only because of the difference in the work, that is, the requirements of the work. The first stage of work was carried out in Israel, and the second stage of concluding the work of redemption was carried out in Judea. For the work of redemption, Jesus was born from the conception through the Holy Spirit and as the only Son. All of this was owing to the requirements of the work. In the last days, God wishes to expand His work into the Gentile nations and conquer the people there, so that His name may be great among them. He wishes to guide man in understanding all the right ways of human life, as well as all truth and the way of life. All of this work is carried out by one Spirit. Though He may do so from different standpoints, the nature and principles of the work remain the same. Once you observe the principles and nature of the work they have carried out, then you will know that it is all by the hand of a single Spirit. Still, some may say, the Father is the Father, the Son is the Son, the Holy Spirit is the Holy Spirit, and in the end, they will be made one. Then how should you make them one? How can the Father and the Holy Spirit be made one? If they were inherently two, then no matter how they are joined together, would they not remain 2 parts? When you say making them one, isn't that simply joining 2 separate parts to make one whole? But were they not 2 parts before being made whole? Each spirit has a distinct substance, and 2 spirits cannot be made into a single one. The spirit is not a material object and is unlike anything else in the material world. As men see it, the Father is one Spirit, the Son another, and the Holy Spirit yet another. Then the 3 spirits mix like 3 glasses of water into one whole. Is not that then the 3 made one? This is an erroneous explanation. Is this not splitting up God? How can the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit all be made one? Are they not 3 parts each of different natures? There are still those who say, did not God expressly state that Jesus was His beloved Son? Jesus is the beloved Son of God, in whom He is well pleased, was certainly spoken by God Himself. That was God bearing witness to Himself, but merely from a different perspective, that of the Spirit in heaven bearing witness to His own incarnation. Jesus is His incarnation, not His Son in heaven. Do you understand? Do not the words of Jesus, "The Father is in me, and I am in the Father," indicate that they were one Spirit? And is it not because of the Incarnation that they were separated between heaven and earth. In reality, they are still one, no matter what. It is simply God bearing witness to Himself. Owing to the change in ages, requirements of the work, and the differing stages of His management plan, the name by which man calls Him also differs. When He came to carry out the first stage of work, He could only be called Jehovah, Shepherd of the Israelites. In the second stage, the incarnate God could only be called Lord and Christ. But at that time, the Spirit in heaven stated only that He was the beloved Son of God, and made no mention of His being the only Son of God. This simply did not happen. How could God have an only child? Then would God not have become man? Because He was the incarnation, He was called the beloved Son of God. And from this came the relationship between Father and Son. It was simply because of the separation between heaven and earth. Jesus prayed from the perspective of the flesh. Since He had put on a flesh of such normal humanity, it is from the perspective of the flesh that He said, "My outer shell is that of a created being." Since I put on a flesh to come to this earth, I am now a long, long way from heaven. For this reason, He could only pray to God the Father from the perspective of the flesh. This was His duty, and that which the incarnate Spirit of God should be furnished with. It cannot be said that He is not God simply because He prays to the Father from the perspective of the flesh. Though He is called the beloved Son of God, He is still God Himself, for He is but the incarnation of the Spirit, and His substance is still the Spirit. As man sees it, they wonder why He prays if He is God Himself. This is because He is the incarnate God, God living within the flesh, and not the Spirit in heaven. As man sees it, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are all God. Only the three, all made as one, can be deemed the one true God, and in this way is His power exceptionally great. There are still those who say that only in this way is He the sevenfold intensified Spirit. When the Son prayed after His coming, that is the Spirit to whom He prayed. In reality, He was praying from the perspective of a created being. For the flesh is not whole, and He was not whole and had many weaknesses when He came into the flesh. Thus was He much troubled as He carried out His work in the flesh. That is why He thrice prayed to God the Father prior to His crucifixion, as well as many times even before that. He prayed among His disciples. He prayed alone upon a mountain. He prayed aboard the fishing boat. He prayed among a multitude of people. He prayed when breaking bread, and He prayed when blessing others. Why did He do so? It was the Spirit to whom He prayed. He was praying to the Spirit, to God in heaven, from the perspective of the flesh. Therefore, from man's standpoint, Jesus became the Son in that stage of work. In this stage, however, He does not pray. Why is this? This is because what he brings forth is the work of the Word and the judgment and chastisement of the Word. He has no need for prayers, for his ministry is to speak. He is not put upon the cross, and he is not turned over by man to those in power. He simply carries out his work, and all is set. At the time when Jesus prayed, he was praying to God the Father for the descent of the kingdom of heaven, for the will of the Father to be done, and for the work to come. In this stage, the kingdom of heaven has already descended. So does he still have need to pray? His work is to bring the age to an end. And since there are no more new ages, is there a need to pray for the next stage? I'm afraid there is not. There are many contradictions in the explanations of man. Indeed, these are all the notions of man. Without further scrutiny, you would all believe they are correct. Do you not know that this idea of God as a Trinity is but the notion of man? No knowledge of man is full and thorough. There are always impurities, and man has too many ideas. This demonstrates that a created being simply cannot explain the work of God. There is too much in the minds of man, all coming from logic and thought that conflicts with the truth. Can your logic thoroughly dissect the work of God? Can you gain an insight into all the work of Jehovah? Is it you, as a man, who can see through it all, or is it God himself who is able to see from everlasting to everlasting? Is it you who can see from everlasting long ago to the everlasting to come, or is it God who can do so? What do you say? How are you worthy to explain God? On what basis is your explanation? Are you God? The heavens and earth, and all things in it, were created by God himself. It was not you who did this, so why are you giving incorrect explanations? Now, do you continue to believe in the Trinity? Do you not think it is too burdensome this way? It would be best for you to believe in one God, not in three. It is best to be light, for the burden of the Lord is light.